In the last chapter, Shaul made his way, without knowing the reason, to the house of Shmuel. Shmuel showed him great respect, and Shmuel has taken him onto the roof and is talking to him, and now comes the revealing moment. Chapter 10, we're starting with verse 1, of course. Vayikach Shmuel et pach hashemen, vayitzok al rosho, vayishakehu, vayomer, halo, ki moshechacha, Adonai al nachlato linagid. Shmuel takes the flask of oil, pours it on Shmuel's head, and he kisses him and says, God appoints you as the prince, the ruler over his people. Notice the word melech is not used there. The Jews ask for a king. God says, I'm their king, really. They're not right what they're saying to me, but God appoints him as a king, but the word king is not used. Also, just interesting to note here, Shmuel kisses Shaul on the head. I think that we'll see that Shmuel has a great love for Shaul, that even though he only meets him here yesterday, he sees that he's a great person and wants to offer sort of that parental type of mentorship to Shaul. Is it going to work or not? And now he continues. We don't see what Shaul's reaction is yet at this point. So you're going to leave today and you're going to come near the tomb of Rachel. Shaul is from tribe of Binyamin, Rachel's youngest son, the son during which the birthing of she passes away. And so it's just interesting to note that he's going back there, back to the gvul of Rachel. He's the first king, and Rachel, a woman who couldn't bear children. And of course, this book started with a woman who also couldn't bear children. So we have that similarity between the two of them. And what's going to happen there is they're going to be told, your father found the donkeys. He's worried about you. Echad nosei shlosha gediyim, ve'echad nosei shlosha kikarot lechem, ve'echad nosei nevel yain. And you're going to go from there. And the first time you met two people, now you're going to meet with three people by Alon Tavor, and they're going to be going on a pilgrimage to Bethel. One has three kids with him. Another has 3 loaves of bread. A third is carrying a jar of wine. V'shalu lecha l'shalom, and they're going to greet you. They're going to say hello to you, and they're going to offer you 2 loaves of bread, which you shall accept. Why are they offering him this bread? After that, you're going to go to the hill of God. And after that, you're going to come to the hill of God, and you're going to encounter a band of prophets. We talked about this in the past days, the idea that during this book, because of Shmuel, who comes at a time when prophecy is waning, and there seems to be very little prophecy, and he comes and he restores prophecy to Israel. There are now many people who are attaining prophecy, and you're going to meet a band of prophets. Now, they will have with them all types of instruments. The reason why that was to get them into a mood to accept prophecy. You can't just, prophecy doesn't just come, you need to be in the right mood. So you're going to meet these prophets. V'tzalcha alecha ruach Adonai v'hitnabita imam v'nefachta li'ishacher. The Spirit of God will envelop you, will take over you. And with this ecstasy, you will become another man. You'll become another person, right? You think you're just Shaul, the guy who's running after donkeys. You're just from the smallest of the tribes of Israel. No. You're going to be a prophet. You're going to be a great man. You're going to be a man of God. You're going to be the Nagid. You're going to be the leader, the king of Israel. And once these signs have happened, do what you think to do, because God is with you. Now, this is a challenging thing. Do what Asher Timsa Yadecha. Do what you think you should do. How does Shaul know what he's supposed to do? There hasn't been a king of Israel, and he hasn't been trained to how to be king of Israel. Maybe Shmuel needed to stay with him a little longer. And now he tells him something. We're going to come back to this in the future chapter. And after that, go down to Gilgal, and you're going to bring offerings. But wait 7 days until I come to instruct you what you're supposed to do next. And as Shaul turned around to leave Shmuel, Vayafoch lo Elohim lev acher. God gave him another heart. God gave him something extra, something special. Now that he's going to be the leader, the ruler, the king of Israel, and all of those things that Shmuel said came to pass, signs that showed to Shaul that he was going to be king of Israel, that this wasn't just some crazy speech that was being given. Yes, it was from a great man, it was from Shmuel, but this is to teach, to show Shaul that he is now a different person. And as he came up to the hill, he saw those group of prophets coming to him, and the Spirit of God gripped him. And he spoke, he prophesied along with them. And everybody who had known him from past days, from yesterday, from 2 days, from 3 days, from a week, from a month, from a year before, and when they saw that he was prophesying along with the other prophets, and they said, what happened to the son of Kish? He was just a regular guy. Is Saul too amongst the prophets? Wow, what a transition for this young man, for Shaul. Vayan ish misham vayomer umi avihem al ken hayta mashal hagam Shaul ban Vim. But another person spoke up and said, who are their fathers? Who are their fathers supposed to be? Right? They're the children of God. Is this such a surprise to you when they are from descendants of Avram and Yitzchak and Yaakov? Of course he can be. What's the big surprise? And so Shaul too is amongst the prophets. So he finished prophesying and he goes up to the bama, he goes up to the shrine, to the altar. Vayomer Dav, Dod Shaul elav. And Shaul's uncle speaks to him. Ba'el na'aro, an halachtem. And his uncle says, where have you been? Vayomer levakeshet atanot v'nirek yain v'navo el Shmuel. He said, we were searching for the donkeys and we couldn't find them. We went to the prophet. We went to Shmuel. Vayomer Dod Shaul hakita nali ma'amar lachem Shmuel. So his uncle said, wow, you visited Shmuel? Tell me what he said to you. Vayomer Shaul el dodo hagedi gidlanu kinim suatonot ve'tvar mlucha lo ikidlo asher amar Shmuel. So he said, we got there and Shmuel said, your donkeys were already found. You're on the path. You're searching, but they're already there. But he didn't reveal to him that Shmuel said and anointed him as the next or the first king of Israel. Vayatzek Shmuel el ha'am et ha'am el Adonai ha'mitzpah. So Shmuel gathers whole community together in Mitzpah. Mitzpah was a place from which they did tshuva a couple of chapters ago, and then Bnei Israel went and they were victorious over the Philistines, avenging the earlier defeat when we had the death of Eli's two sons and the Mishkan and the Aron taken and the Mishkan destroyed. And so Shmuel gathers them together once again in Mitzpah. Vayomer el Bnei Yisrael. And he says, Ko amar Adonai lo Yisrael, Anochi eliti et Yisrael mi Mitzrayim vatzil etchem yad Mitzrayim yad kol hamamlachot halochtzim etchem. He gives them a history lesson. This is what God said. God, the Lord of Israel, I took you out of Egypt and I saved you from the Egyptians and all of the other kingdoms who were oppressing you. Vatem hayom me'astem et Elohechem asher hu moshia lachem mikol ra'otechem v'tzarotechem v'tomru lo ki melech tasim aleinu v'ata hityatzfu lifnei Adonai l'shivtechem u'la'alfechem. But yet you rejected me, even though I saved you so many times. And you said, give us a king. We want to be like everybody else. So therefore, go and divide yourself into different tribes and different houses so that I can, tell you God's message. Vayakrev Shmuel kol shivtei Yisrael, vayilached shevet Binyamin. And all of the tribes were divided. And this is going back to like the book of Yoshua, where there was presumably through the Urim and Thummim, a lot that was being given. So it's interesting to think of it as sort of a continuation of the conquest of Israel. When they were, when tribes were being given land, the Urim and Thummim would say Yehudah, and then it would say this family gets this and this family gets that. And so here too, it's being done in this way, but this time it ends up with the smallest tribe, the tribe of Binyamin. Vayakrev et shevet Binyamin lemishpachto vatilachei mishpachat hamatri ve'alachei Shaul ben Kish vayivakshuhu v'lo nimsa. And so the leaders of the tribes of Binyamin came forward, and eventually came to be Shaul, the son of Kish, was indicated. But when they looked for him, he was not found. He was not there. They didn't know where he was. Again, I'm going to repeat what we said. It's significant that Binyamin, from the smallest tribe, but the tribe that was decimated back in the book of Shoftim, the tribe that seemed to be excluded, that almost was killed off because of their evil actions, that a king is going to come from them. But Shaul, who's supposed to be the first king, who knows he's going to the first king? Nobody sees him. Vayishalu od ba'Adonai, have od halom ish. And they asked of God, where is this guy? Vayomer Adonai, hinehu nechba el hakelim. And they said, he's hiding in the coat room. He's not here with us. He's hiding. And this is significant because it's sort of in a similar fashion to the last chapter when Shaul says to Shmuel, why are you treating me like this? What's with the special treatment? I'm a nobody. I'm from the smallest tribe, from the tribe of Binyamin. And even amongst that tribe, I'm from the lowest of families. And here he is. He's supposed to be king of Israel. He should have gotten a seat up front. And when they announced him, he should have walked up, but he's reluctant. He's hiding. He has humility, which sometimes is great, but sometimes it is too much. Vayarutzu vayikachuhu misham vayityatzei b'toch ha'am. And they ran and brought him from there, and they put him amongst his people. And there, it's interesting, right? It says b'toch ha'am, he was amongst the people. It doesn't say he's in front of the people even. It was pointed out in the last chapter, and he was a head taller than all his people. He was like Abraham Lincoln. He towered over them, and they looked and they saw him, and that for at least some would have given respect. Vayomer Shmuel el kolam, haritem asher bachar bo Adonai, ki ein kamohu bechol ha'am. Vayara'u kol ha'am vayomru yichi Hamelech. And Shmuel says to the people, look what God has chosen. There's nobody like him. Look how tall he is, like a giant. He's a great leader. You want somebody who's going to lead us in war, who's going to defeat the Philistines. Here you have this man to go and defeat. And the people respond with Yichi Hamelech. Long live the king. So God doesn't use the word king because God says, I am your king. But the people use the word king. And so Shmuel then tells everybody what the rules of the kings are, right? He warned them in the past, he can have more horses, he can have more wives, he can lead you in war, he has to write a second Sefer Torah, which is only the book of Deuteronomy, all the laws that we learned about, and everybody hears it and they go home. And interestingly, Shaul also goes home. He doesn't know what to do. What are you supposed to do when you're king of Israel? There's no precedent. So he goes home also. But this time he's not by himself. He's accompanied by some upstanding men who God inspired them to go along with, which again shows, right? On the one hand, God says, I don't want a melech, you can have an agid. I'm warning you, I'm telling you, you rejected me. But God is going to support this decision. It's a very important lesson. Right? If you're in, a synagogue and they elect a rabbi and it's not your choice of the rabbi. So you know what? God didn't want this person to be king, but God didn't want a king. But once this person's elected king, God is going to have people follow him. And that's an important notion that sometimes you don't get your way, but you have to follow in the way that the community, the country decided. Not like the Brazilians yesterday. Uvnei v'lial amru ma yoshienu zeh. And we have a word that we've had multiple times over the last number of chapters, the end of the book of Shoftim and the book of Shmuel, these bnei blial, these scoundrels, these people who have no oak of God. They don't have the yoke of God. Maybe they don't have the oak of God either. They are evil people. They are bad. This is the same word that Chana says to Eli, don't call me one of those. This is the word that describes Eli's two sons who are terrible people. This is the word that describes the rapists of the Pilegesh in the end of the book of Shoftim. And so this is to say that this is, in my opinion, a small group of people. This is not the majority of Bnei Israel. There's a small group of people who go along with him. There are many people who are happy, but they go home. What are they supposed to do? So there's a king. Great. That doesn't change my life in a major way. And there's a small group of people who Avru says, how is this guy going to help us? Vayivazuhu v'lo hiviu lo mincha vayihi kimacharish. And they scorn him and they bring him no gift, but he pretended not to hear them. He didn't pay attention. And that's probably a good thing. It's a great thing for a leader to not pay attention. Right there, if you do anything, there are always going to be people who don't like what you have to say. Why'd you make this decision? Why didn't you make that decision? Why didn't you do this? Everybody can second guess every decision. We're not going to pay attention to them. Whether that Shmuel is not paying attention to them, whether that Shaul not paying attention to them, don't pay attention to the bullies. Let's move forward. We're a people, and that's what we have to do. And now we have our king, and let's see how that works out for Bnei Yisrael.